This is a part 2 of a multi-part series. To fully be caught up with what's going on, I'd recommend watching the first part first. With the first game out of the way, we're on to FNaF 2. Although adding a lot more depth to the lore, I feel with FNaF 2 I'm still in the safe zone when it comes to simplicity. Far away are the days of Remnant and all that it brings. For now, the series is still in its paranormal phase, right where I like it. FNaF 2's lore is delivered through the same sources as FNaF 1, being phone guy, Easter eggs, and environmental clues. However, this game adds one more substantial source to the lore, which sets a precedent for the rest of the series: Minigames. These arcade-style games, in FNaF 2, have a chance of playing after death, and contain scenes from key events in the timeline. There are 4 in this game, and we'll cover those last, as they are the most substantial. Before going into any pieces of lore, for context, it's important to establish that the end-of-week paycheck for this game lists the date as 1987, meaning everything mentioned in this game must take place before FNaF 1, except for the mini-games, which I guess could technically take place at any time. Starting with the phone guy, in this game he delivers a lot more lore than he did in the original. Important pieces of lore he mentions are as follows. The recordings are being left for an employee taking a summer job. Additionally, the phone calls differ from FNaF 1, as it doesn't sound as if they are pre-recorded messages. Instead, they are live calls to the employee working. There's another Freddy Fazbear's Pizza that existed before FNaF 2, which had negative connotations associated with it. The night guard may have reason to have negative impressions of the company. The new toy animatronics are equipped with advanced motion and facial recognition technology. The withered animatronics are from the aforementioned previous location and have a smell to them. While the Freddy head trick fixes the facial recognition glitch with the animatronics, Foxy and the puppet are not fooled, with Foxy being referred to as Twitchy and the puppet being referred to as Always Thinking, and it's also mentioned that it can go anywhere. The new Foxy has a completely different design and is torn apart by kids every day, being referred to as the Mangle. The previous night guard has moved to the day shift due to problems with conditions. Throughout the week, he reports no issues at the establishment. Curiously, at the end of the week, you're assigned the day shift. An incident happens which causes an investigation at the pizzeria. On night 4, it seems phone guy knows very little and says that it's a precaution. He at first claims someone may have tampered with the animatronics' facial recognition, and not looking them in the eye is a bad idea, being aggressive to staff. On night 5, he claims that no previous employee should be let into the building, as the day shift position just became available. This saga ends on night 6, when he announces that the location is being shut down for a while after someone used a yellow suit from the back room, likely causing the problems the animatronics have been causing the last few days. The night guard we play as is being moved to the day shift to make sure the animatronics don't hurt anyone. Before Freddy's, there is an original restaurant called Fredbear's Family Diner. He also mentions that for whatever reason, Freddy's is looking into contacting the owners of this restaurant. Ooh, that was quite a bit more, but we're not done. Going into the Easter eggs, there are a lot more in this game, however, only some of them seem to be relevant to the game's lore. I'll mention those relevant ones now. Rare screens may play of Withered Freddy, Foxy, and Toy Bonnie, where they are missing their eyes. While Bonnie is likely connected to Scott's fear of Bonnie, I feel the other 2 are direct connections to some of the death minigames, which I'll touch on later. Shadow Freddy and Shadow Bonnie, 2 ghastly shadow figures appear in this game, both of which will crash your game. Shadow Bonnie seems to resemble Toy Bonnie, while Shadow Freddy resembles Withered Golden Freddy. Sometimes when the puppet is let out of the box, a naked Endo 2 skeleton can be seen, roaming the pizzeria, starting at the puppet's box, and going to the left vent from there. Next are the environmental clues. Again, I will only mention ones I feel are relevant, as some have been mentioned already from other sources. Black splotches on the floors and walls and wires hanging from the ceiling imply this location isn't being kept in the best condition. Did you also notice that a wet floor sign stays up all week? At the end of the week, a newspaper claims that the new Freddy's has been open only a few short weeks, and that the newer models will be scrapped due to malfunctions. Meanwhile, the older models are being kept for reuse in a new, lower-budget location, as the CEO remarks. Despite phone guy claiming the night guard was working a summer job, the end-of-week paycheck is dated for November. On night 7, we play as a person with a different name from the person on the preceding nights, Fritz Smith as opposed to Jeremy Fitzgerald. Alright, with all that aside, we can dig into the meat of the bones here, the death minigames. The scenarios they reveal are as follows. As Freddy takes cake to children around the restaurant, a purple man in a purple car drives up outside and appears to kill a child who was out there. A voice spells out, "Save him," and the game concludes with a puppet jump scare. A red and brown colored Foxy, not white and pink, performs a show where he runs out to meet an audience of children. The third time he does so, a purple man waits outside of his curtain as Foxy happens upon the corpses of 5 children. The game concludes in a Foxy jump scare. Withered Freddy walks around in what is clearly the FNaF 2 pizzeria to find 5 dead bodies littered around the location as the puppet guides him. Golden Freddy appears to teleport around the location, and strangely, unlike the other animatronics, Mangle is wiggling around. This is the only minigame to not end in a jump scare. However, rarely the purple man can appear, this time wearing a yellow badge. While the minigame normally spells out "Save them," being caught by the purple man causes the message "You can't" to be displayed. Finally, there is a minigame which spells out "Help them," as the puppet is first seen giving gifts to 4 dead children, before putting the animatronic masks onto them. Once all 4 masks are placed, a 5th, uncostumed corpse spawns in the middle for an instant, before the game ends in a Golden Freddy jump scare. It may also be worth mentioning that between the nights there are short cutscenes where we take FNaF 1 Freddy's view, and we can see other characters like Bonnie, Chica, Golden Freddy, and the puppet visit us. Nothing too notable happens in these, though. So with all of our new lore fuel compiled, let's try to sift it all through the timeline machine. I'll be signifying FNaF 2 events with light blue. Firstly, we can place 2 older locations. First, a Fredbear's Family Diner, followed by what can be presumed to be the first Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. At one of these 2 locations, the child that possesses the puppet is murdered. For now, I'll choose Fredbear's as the original, given the Save Him minigame seems to be a more simple location, with only a bear animatronic being seen. This is of course followed by the next MCI at the old Freddy's, details of which have been updated in this game. Next, we can amend some details on the timeline with some of the new information, namely, it's evident this must be pre-FNaF 2, as the Foxy minigame shows, as I mentioned, a red and brown Foxy, witnessing the murder of the children. The withered animatronics are said to be used for parts only in the FNaF 2 locations, so this had to be at a location that a red Foxy was active. While it's likely true that the bodies were hidden in the animatronics by the purple man, it was the puppet who ultimately bound the souls of the children to the robots. It's important to note that it's implied that the 5th child, represented as Golden Freddy, is never properly bound to any given suit. Get details that the killer likely used a yellow suit for his murders. For now, the only candidates would be Golden Freddy or Chica, though for now we'll put Golden Freddy down as our most likely contender, given he has no endoskeleton unlike Chica. Sometime after this, a new location opens, that being the FNaF 2 building. It's shown that a separate incident of child murder happened at the FNaF 2 location. It's unknown what became of the victims, however, we know this took place from the Save Them minigame, but also through Phone Guy's calls, where he insinuates that the night shift to day shift to terminated employee perpetuated whatever happened. Even still, it's never expressly said murder happened, just that the event caused the animatronics to become aggressive towards adults, perhaps because the animatronics saw the crime, but not the disguised criminal. This also tells us that unlike the first game, this time the killer doesn't need to have been caught, as nobody seems to report that murders even happened. Onto the elusive bite of 87, we can't resolve who did it, though it is implied that it was caused by an animatronic gone haywire. Certainly didn't help the already closing Freddy's location. After these incidents, the location shuts down. It's likely that after this is when the actual gameplay takes place. As mentioned, Phone Guy's recordings are for a summer job, yet our end-of-week paycheck is in November. After this, we connect back to FNaF 1 with the new location opening. I just wanted to mention that I'm cutting the character sheet that I started in the last video. As I've done more planning for the series, I realized that most things we would have written on the character sheet are on the timeline anyway. And also, I don't know, I feel like it just overcomplicated things. Anyways, back to the video. To conclude this episode, I'd just like to mention how daunting this game really appeared to be at first, but with everything laid out, it really doesn't add too much. A huge portion of the lore is just additional details to the MCI I laid out on the first game. I think as a whole though, I see how important it could very well be to look at the story this way. Rather than trying to look at all the details in the franchise all at once, taking it one game at a time really helps keep thoughts organized. I want to wrap up this video mentioning all loose ends that remain as of this game. You'll come to find that FNaF 2 is a unique game in the series, being the only one other than Sister Location that was never intended to be a finale to the series, so it makes sense that there'd be some loose ends left behind. Those ends are as follows. First we have the Bite of 87. There's also whatever event caused Foxy to go out of order in the first game. But there's also the Shadow animatronics, which we don't know what those are. Oh right, we also don't know what happens to the second set of missing children. Hopefully in the next episode we'll be able to wrap up all these loose ends, as after all, FNaF 3 was the first time a game was supposed to be the finale of the series. Certainly no stone will go unturned, right?